To continue reading, page number 38. To continue reading the Handbook for Mankind, the book of Buddhasa Bhikku. This reading out loud is to learn and improve English reading skill and to educate the Buddha's teachings via the Buddhasa Bhikku's book's title, Handbook for Mankind. Some words I may be reading with unclear pronunciation and corrected straight on it. By the way, I try my best to read out loud based on my self-learning and my own accent. Let's get started. We have seen that suffering has its origins in desire, which is just what the Buddha set out in the second noble truth. Now there are three kinds of desire. The first kind is sensual desire, desiring and finding pleasure in things, in shapes and colors, sounds, scents, tastes, or tactile objects. The second kind is desire for becoming, desire to be this or that according to what one wants. The third kind is desire not to become, desire not to be this or that. That there are just these three kinds of desire is an absolute rule. Anyone is defied to challenge this rule and demonstrate the existence of a kind of desire rather than these three. Anyone can observe that wherever there is desire, there distress is too. And when we are forced to act on a desire, we are bound to suffer again in accordance with the action. Having got the result, we are unable to put an end to our desire. So we carry right on desiring. The reason we are obliged to continue experiencing distress is that we are not yet free from desire, but we are still slaves to it. Thus, it can be said that an evil man does evil because he desires to do evil and experiences the kind of suffering appropriate to the nature of an evil man, and that a good man desires to do good, and so is bound to experience another kind of suffering. a kind appropriate to the nature of a good man, but don't understand this as teaching us to give up doing good. It is simply teaching us to realize that there exist degrees of suffering, to find that the average man cannot detect them. We have to act on the Buddha's advice. If we are to break free from suffering completely, simply doing good is not sufficient. It is necessary to do things beyond and above the doing of good, things that will serve to free the mind from the condition of serfdom and slavery to desire of any kind. This is the quintessence of the Buddha's teaching. It cannot be bettered or equaled by any other religion in the world, so ought to be carefully remembered. To succeed in overcoming these three forms of desire is to attain complete liberation from suffering. How can we eliminate desire, extinguish it, cut it out at its roots, and put an end to it for good? The answer to this is simply observe and take note of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, suffering, and non-selfhood until we come to see that there is nothing worth desiring. What is there worth getting or being? What is there such that when a person has got it, all becomes it? It fails to give rise to some kind of suffering. Ask yourself this question: what is there that you can get or be that will not bring distress and anxiety? Think it over. Does having a wife and children lead to light-heartedness and freedom, or does it bring all sorts of responsibilities? Is the gaining of high position and title, the gaining of peace and calm, or the gaining of heavy obligations? Looking at things in this way, we readily see that these things always bring only burden and responsibility, and why everything whatsoever is burdened simply by virtue of its characteristics of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-selfhood. Having a good something, we have to see to it that it stays with us. Is as we wish it to be, or is of benefit to us, but that thing is by nature impermanent, unsatisfactory, and nobody's property. It cannot conform to the aims and objectives of anyone. It will only change as is its nature. All our efforts then are an attempt to oppose and withstand the law of change, and life, as an attempt to make things conform to our wishes, is fraught with difficulty and suffering. There exists a technique for coming to realize that nothing at all is worth getting or being. It consists in examining things deeply enough to discover that in the presence of craving, one has feelings of a certain kind towards getting and being, that when desire has given by completely to insight into the true nature of things, one's attitude towards getting and being is rather different. As an easy example, let us consider eating. One man's eating, accompanied by craving and desire for delicious taste, must have certain features that distinguish it from another man's eating, which is accompanied not by desire, but by clear comprehension or insight into the true nature of things. Their eating manners must differ. Their feelings while eating must differ, and so must the result arising from their eating. Now that we have to realize is that one can still eat food even though one lacks or craving for delicious taste. The Buddha and Arahants, individuals devoid of craving, were still able to do things and be things. They were still able to do work, far more in fact than any of us can with all our desires. What was the power by virtue of which they did it? What corresponded to the power of craving, of desiring to be this or that, by virtue of which we do things? The answer is that they did it by the power of insight, clear and thorough knowledge of what is what, or the true nature of things. We by contrast are motivated by desire, with the result that we are, unlike them, continually subject to suffering. They did not desire to get or possess anything, and as a result, others were benefited thanks to their benevolence. Their wisdom told them to make it known rather than remain indifferent. and so they were able to pass the teaching on to us. Freedom from craving brings many incidental benefits. A body and mind free from craving can look for and partake of food motivated by intelligent discrimination and not, as before, by desire. If we wish to break free from suffering, following the footsteps of the Buddha and the Arahants, then we must train ourselves to act with discrimination rather than with craving. If you are still a student, then learn how to distinguish right from wrong, good from bad, and verify that studying is the very best thing for you to be doing. If you have a job of some kind, then learn how to distinguish right from wrong, good from bad, and satisfy yourself that that job is the best thing for you to be doing and of benefit to all concerned. Then do it well and with all the coolness and equanimity your insight provides. If in doing something we are motivated by desire, then we worry while doing it, and we worry when we have finished. But if we do it with the guiding power of discrimination, we shall not be worried at all. It is the difference it makes. It is essential then that we be always aware that in reality all things are impermanent, unsatisfactory, and not self. That is, that they are not worth getting or being. If we are to become involved into them, then let us do so with discrimination, and our actions will not be contaminated with desire. If we act wisely, we shall be of suffering right from beginning to end. The mind will not blindly grasp at and cling to things as worth getting and being. We shall be sure to act with wakefulness and be able to proceed in accordance with tradition and custom, or in accordance with the law. For example, though we may own land and property, we need not necessarily have any greedy feelings about them. We need not cling to things to the extent that they become a burden, weighing down and tormenting the mind. The law is bound to see to it that our piece of land remains in our possession We don't need to suffer worry and anxiety about it. It isn't going to slip through our fingers and disappear. Even if someone comes along and snatches it from us, we can surely still resist and protect it intelligently. We can resist without becoming angry, without letting ourselves become heated with the flame of hatred. We can depend on the Lord and do our resisting without any need to experience suffering. Certainly, we ought to watch over our property, but if it should in fact slip out of our grip, then becoming emotional about it won't help matters at all. All things are impermanent, perpetually changing. Realizing this, we need not become upset about anything. Being is the same. There is no need to cling to one's state of being this or that, because in reality there is no satisfactory condition at all. All conditions bring about suffering of one kind or another. There is a very simple technique which we must have a look at later, known as Vipassana, the direct practice of Dhamma. It consists of close introspection, which reveals that there is nothing worth being, or that there is really no satisfactory state of being at all. Have a look at this question yourself. See if you can discover any satisfactory condition or state of being. Being a son, a parent, husband, wife, master, servant. Is any of those agreeable? Even being the man with the advantage, the one with the upper hand, the winner is that agreeable. Is the condition of a human being agreeable? Even the condition of celestial being or a god, would that be agreeable? When you have really come to know the what is what, you find that nothing whatsoever is in any way agreeable. We are making do with mindlessly getting and being. But why should we go risking life and live by getting and being blindly, always acting on desire? It behoves us to understand things and live wisely, involving ourselves in things in such a way that they cause a minimum of suffering, or ideally none at all. Here is another point we must bring to our fellow men, our friends, and particularly our relatives and those close to us. The understanding that this is how things are, so that they may have the same right view as we have. There will then be no upsets in the family, the town, the country, and ultimately in the whole world. Each individual mind will be immune to desire, neither grasping at nor becoming wrapped up in anything or anyone. Instead, everyone's life will be guided by insight. By the ever-present, unobscured vision that there is in reality nothing that we can grasp and at and cling to. Everyone will come to realize that all things are impermanent, unsatisfactory, and devoid of any self-entity, that none of them are worth becoming infatuated with. It is up to us to have the sense to give them up, to have right views in keeping with the Buddha's teaching. A person who has done this is fit to be called a true Buddhist, though he may never be ordained nor even taken the precepts. He will have truly penetrated to Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. His mind will identical with that of Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. It will be uncontaminated, enlightened, and tranquil, simply by virtue of not grasping at anything as worth getting or worth being. So a person can readily become a genuine, fully fed Buddhist simply by means of this technique of being observant, perceiving impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-selfhood until he comes to realize that there is nothing worth getting or being. Lowest forms of evil originate in and are powered by desire to get and to be. Milder forms of evil consist of actions less strongly motivated by desire, and all goodness consists of action based on the fitness, most tenuous sort of desire, the desire to get or to be on a good level, even in its highest forms. Good is based on desire which, however, It's so fine and tenuous that people don't consider it in any way a bad thing. The fact is, however, that good action can never bring complete freedom from suffering. A person who has become free from desire, that is to say an arahant, is one who has ceased acting on desire and has become incapable of doing evil. His actions lie outside the categories of good and evil. His mind is free and has transcended the limitations of good and evil. Thus, he is completely free of suffering. This is a fundamental principle of Buddhism. Whether or not we are able to do it or wish to do it, this is the way to liberation from suffering. Today, we may not yet want it. Someday, we are bound to want it. When we have completely given up evil and have done good to our utmost, the mind extremely the most extreme or greatest utmost, the mind will still be weighed down with various kinds of attenuated desire, and there is no way of getting rid of them other than by striving to go beyond the power of desire, to go beyond the desire to get or be anything bad or good. If there is to be nirvana, freedom from suffering of every kind, there has to be absolute and complete absence of desire. In short, to know what is what, in the ultimate sense, is to see everything as impermanent, unsatisfactory, and devoid of selfhood. When we really know this, the mind comes to see things in such a way that it does not cling to